I wondered to myself if I was going to keep doing these, but it's almost like a diary at this point. It's probably better to, in some shape or way, keep some semblance of this open. So, my mom died on the 19th, December 19th. It's been a pretty rough week. Took time off work. I'm going to take another week off the next week or so, just to... It comes and goes. The weirdest thing to me is feeling guilty when my personality comes back, because my personality is what it is. It feels like it shouldn't be back. I keep telling myself that's fine. It's fine for me to be myself again. And one of it hit a little hard because one of my agents the other day posted something in work chat and it made me laugh. And he commented that it was nice to hear me laugh again. One of the things about this that sort of drives home what I've talked about before, just the sort of life I had. Side note, the whole process of getting proof was more complicated than it needed to be, which resulted in a conversation with HR in regards to telling them a little bit or a lot of it more about my life than one would previously would think needed to be exposed. Mostly to, it becomes awkward to answer certain questions without having the backstory behind the reasons. But one of my coworkers, another suit bear, was talking to her. And like I said, it's awkward, it's rather uncomfortable to talk about, so I just forwarded her the email chain, because, I'm allowed, since it was what I was talking about, and it's my privacy. But she said I should write a book about it, because it's interesting and sad. But, I have, calling Chip was, hard, but, I had told, so my grandmother died a couple years ago. She knew it was coming. I know that because she called me a little bit before to have a last conversation. I still remember a couple things she said that made it particularly stick out. Mom didn't do that. But, so Chip, apparently, Mom had issues going to Grandma's funeral. Apparently it got complicated. So she didn't want anything. There was a obituary that was posted, and then it was taken down, which made things more complicated than it needed to be. So I had to reach out to Chip, basically tell him that was unacceptable. But I have family, because apparently, so he was going to put something up, and I got a call, which I missed. I think I was asleep, because being nocturnal makes things easy. But he stated that he needed to contact me to get the appropriate or correct spelling of my first name. But that if he couldn't reach me, he would reach out to my father or my ex-wife. I have 2 uncles left. Cousins. I have no idea whatsoever. I think I have an aunt on my father's side. I have no idea. Like, I vaguely remember, I think this was literally 30 years ago that I've had any interaction with that side of my family. I have a half-brother. We don't talk. I have a family left, right? You would think, I still have, but the remnants of what was my life growing up in regards to my grandmother being the black sheep or being blacklisted for understandable reasons, right? I'm not even trying to say that they weren't understandable, since I lived there and through it and could 100% justify the fact that the family didn't really want to have anything to do with her. Unfortunately, I was left in that situation with her, as was my mother, which means that it was always just the 3 of us, regardless of the fact that I have this family apparently left over, or not even apparently, like I have 2 uncles and cousins, and who knows what's on my father's side, since I haven't talked to him since I was 10. That was never my family, right? Like, I know I'm blood related. To be fair, that has changed with my aunt and uncle that live out here. I will go ahead and say that. As for the rest, though, I don't have interactions with them. And sure, it may be partially put on me that I don't reach out to anyone, but I learned, I grew up under the conditions that my mother, myself, and my grandmother were untouchables. So it was never really a thing for me to, in any way, shape, or form, have any sort of connection with anyone else and or rely on them. I didn't have that. And that's where I am now. I apparently still have this family left over, but I don't. I had my mother and my grandmother, and they're gone now. I don't have anyone else. With the exception now of my uncle and aunt who live out here, who for all intents and purposes half adopted me for a few years when I, moved out here as messily as that happened. like I said, my grandmother died, 4 or 5 years ago? I was in Spectrum at the time. I hadn't been promoted to a lead. I've been at Spectrum for 7 years, so I think there was, I want to say about 4 years ago. And so there's this weird feeling where you're like, you're not alone, right? Like, I can intellectually tell myself that there's members of my family that continue to exist, that in some theoretically I could reach out to, but that was never my life before, so why would it be my life now? In regards to even feeling like that was an option that I had available to me. I'm sure I could, but that was never family. My aunt and uncle down here help. I went down there last week for a couple days, which I guess was good. There's still that. I haven't felt Christmas for a couple years now. Like, it was always getting lighter, right? In terms of feeling. I still appreciate Christmas music. I still appreciate the change in the atmosphere that people have. Seeing people put up decorations. In terms of personally feeling anything anymore, that car is weaving very hard and it's raining, which is not safe. But in terms of feeling anything personally anymore, I don't. I really don't anymore. I can try to pretend for other people, but it's kind of dead now for me. But part of that is going down there for Christmas. A couple years ago, I started, you would think, as a grown-ass man, an adult, it wouldn't mean very much, but it does. I got presents one year for a motorcycle, that never materialized, so I didn't basically get anything, even though I kind of got something. The next year it was closed, so I could find a job, or help me with finding a job. I think I already had Spectrum lined up at that point, so, or if not, okay, I guess it was helpful. But it was, whatever. But that was a couple years. The reverse flip side of that is, when I had my job, the first one at Viking Range, which is a terrible fucking company. I remember that first Christmas when I had my paycheck and I could really try to give back to what they provided. I remember buying my uncle the most expensive, fancy-ass remote I could find for all of his tech shit. I remember buying the most fanciest, biggest, amazingest puzzle I could find for my aunt. It was me giving back, right? Fine. That sort of continued. Whenever I would go down, I would try to at least get gift cards that I would think that they would use and or like, Amazon or whatever. I say that to say, I think after the first 2 years, and even this year, there's a feeling when you walk into someone else's house, and you see the Christmas setup, a bunch of Christmas presents under the tree, or the year it hurt the most, or sort of, made me disassociate the most. I had gone down there. I guess he had forgotten that I was coming down, and I saw the remnants of Christmas. Packages open, strewn open. Okay, fine, the tree, whatever. But I was not a part of that. Which, whatever. You can adapt. But that's sort of that was the last bastion I had of Christmas. And when you yourself, I remembered growing up, it was funny because I would get the biggest sensation of Christmas from watching Christmas movies, right? And I would always feel like I was on the outside of that because that was not my life. We had some bits of it, but the family in the specific ways wasn't entirely correct. To be fair, I had at least one positive memory of Christmas. I can talk about it later. Well, it was the year I got Chrono Trigger. What's interesting is that my memory of it is because my mom got a camcorder that year. So I distinctly remember the camcorder when she was testing it out in another room, and you could hear me playing Chrono Trigger in the den. That's the memory I have. Not of me playing Chrono Trigger, so much of the memory of my mom's recording of her trying out the camera, and you could hear me playing Chrono Trigger in the other room. That's the memory I have. That's how my brain works, apparently. But like I said, we were the black sheep. Though 2 times a year we would go see the rest of the family over Thanksgiving and Christmas. And walking into my uncle's house, my other uncle's house, was like walking into what Christmas should be. And again, we had me, mom, and grandma. We had, a tree, and I guess I was made to put up lights. I don't remember. But we had too many cats, so it wasn't the same. Like, you had to keep the presents hidden until like actual Christmas, because the cats would piss on them otherwise. Like, it wasn't the same. So walking into their house is like walking into what Christmas should be, with the normalcy and the carpets and the feeling of Christmas. But so you would always, or I would always feel like, that person on the outside looking in through the big plate glass window of what Christmas should be. Going over to my uncle's house now, the one that's out here, it's like I've been invited into the house, right? I can stay in the house, I can eat the food, use the couch, watch the TV if I want to. I don't watch TV anymore, right? But I have that access. But now at the same time, it's like I have close vision, close access, first person. I'm now inside the house in which Christmas takes place, but I'm still not a part of Christmas. Does that make sense? Like, it's like I have hands-on experience with not being part of the same thing. And that hit pretty hard one year. When you walk in, you're like, hey, I haven't seen you guys, happy Christmas. And I made certain, if I remember correctly, something, my brain was like, make certain you get something, get gifts card. I don't care what it is, get something. Don't just go down there with nothing. So I did. And I saw the remnants of Christmas and got nothing. And that's been it for the past couple years. Like, I got a present from an agent. My manager gave me a $50 gift card. Thank you. I got a Christmas present from my aunt this year, which is the first time in the past like 4 or 5 years. It may sound small-hearted or small-minded, but it's a painful feeling. It's a painful and lonely, separating feeling when you go into somebody else's house who's your family, and there's a Christmas tree and decorations and lights and a big pile of presents under them, and at your heart, in your heart of hearts, literally none of that has anything to do with you. And you're like, why am I here? So, I've got nobody to share Christmas with. I've got nobody to have Christmas with. I haven't had anybody to have Christmas with in quite some time. So the feeling has died. But now, I'm wondering how going forward that's going to affect me even more now that December 19th is that day, is the day that my mom died. And that's just how I feel. I mean, maybe it's not right. Maybe I shouldn't be thinking like that, but that's that's part of how I feel and what's going through my mind. But yeah, I'm gonna take I think the week of the 9th off. It's worked 6 days this week, or I've worked 5 days and I still work tomorrow. Not the best timing, not the most pleasant of timings to have a 6-day work week. But it was, so I went down to my uncle's house for a couple days. But I had to work Christmas. Not technically, I could have taken bereavement, but I had signed up to work a double shift, which on Christmas, as a supervisor, you work 4 hours, so I had worked a full 8-hour shift. And obviously it's Christmas, so coverage is light. So I wanted to make certain I showed up. But it was interesting being down there, because I came back Christmas Eve, because I don't want to be one of those wake up, drive all the way home just to take a shower, put clothes on, and drive to work. That sounds miserable to me. So I went back the day before, plus getting me out of the hole. I don't particularly have the desire to sit there and watch them have Christmas by themselves. I'm sorry. But yeah, so I was there from Tuesday to Thursday. Came home and had Friday here, and Saturday went to work. But it's something where, I appreciate them, but I don't live with them. I spend my time at home alone, which, whatever, that's how my life is. But that means that while there was some semblance of normalcy while I was down there, I didn't really, it hit all over again the second I stepped into my room, because that's my actual atmosphere in which I live. So that's where it sort of hit and struck all over again. So once that happened, now I've been working the past couple days, and I suppose there's some, part of it in which is quote unquote getting back to normal. There's also some part of it where you just got to take some more time. So yeah, I'm going to take off the week of the 9th. I think I have most of it approved. But yeah, that's yeah.